Happy Wisdom Wednesday, everyone. And yes, I'm in my new library. We moved just this weekend, and so I'm in the middle of setting up my library. As you can notice, I got 2 new bookshelves, right? So no more books on the floor. Well, there's still quite a lot of books on the floor, actually, if you take a look there. Quite a lot. So I still need to clean up, and I'm probably going to overgrow this library rather quickly, but nice bookshelves. I'll give you guys a tour of the new library once I have everything set up. It's coming along great. But, as always, we don't miss Wisdom Wednesday. This is the book of the week, and this is an interesting one because it's actually one that I've had since I was a kid, and it was actually made specifically when my dad was working at Sierra Medical Center back in El Paso, Texas. There's a Sierra Medical Center logo there, and the book is called The Edge, and there's a very specific reason why I wanted to pull this book out and share it with you all. So, for one, there's some books that I have that I actually never check the value of. It turns out this book, it doesn't seem to be in print anymore, and the hardcover is going for $382 on Amazon. So again, another really valuable book that I have. But more specifically, I got this book when I was a kid, and The Edge is essentially a collection of stories and more specifically quotes from great athletes, throughout the history. And as a kid, this is my first exposure, because again, we didn't have internet back then. It was my first exposure to what it meant to be a world-class performer, what it meant to have grit, hard work, all these different things. So this book, it really inspired and molded me. And one day I'll hopefully give this to one of my kids. I gotta make sure that they read too. But I thought a really interesting thing is to share this book. And as you can see, it's beautiful, a lot of great photos and quotes, right? And it's divided into these 8 specific chapters, and the author, by the way, is Howard Ferguson. Howard Ferguson died back in 1989, so this is kind of in honor of his book. I don't know if any of his kids are around, but I'll find a way to get in touch with them and maybe share with them this review I did for their father. So the contents of the book, these are the 8 things that he pulled together in terms of what it means to become a world-class performer, an all-star. Right? A legend, character, setting goals, preparation, pre-game, the game, overtime, post-game, and the game of life. And so what I'm going to do is go through each chapter and randomly pick a quote and kind of read it to you guys. And of course, each of these chapters, are kind of broken down into sub-chapters, such as in character. There's an area for honesty, loyalty, respect, and unselfishness. Stand for something, have the courage for your convictions, right? So let's go through each one of these, and maybe I might find a note from when I was a kid or something, but let's go through and see what kind of quotes we pull out. So first we have character, and of course on each chapter, and again, there's a fondness I have and appreciation for well-designed books. Beautiful lettering. Again, you have the chapter, you have a breakdown, so what you're going to specifically learn, and then it starts giving us sort of a little bit of an intro. So what is class, right? It has to do with character. So let's go with, here we go, Jim Brown, who is an NFL fullback and a really, really bad mofo. This guy's a tough guy. And he says, "One thing I learned in football is that you must have respect. It is not so important that people like you, but it is an absolute must that you must have their respect." Great quote, I have to agree. Let's do another one. Right? Let's see. Bob Anderson, who's an English poet. So, of course, a lot of them are not just athletes, right? They're people who had quotes that inspired athletes. There's nothing so rewarding as to make people realize they are worthwhile in this world, right? And that has to do with unselfishness. All right, next one is setting goals. So, Charles C. Noble, who's an American civil engineer, says, "You must have long-range goals to keep you from being frustrated by short-term failures." Great quote. Wonderful. Let's do one more. Sam Snead, a professional golfer, "To win, you have to have the talent and desire, but desire is first." And I definitely agree with that. I think Nietzsche once said that as long as you have a why, a man can bear any how. Something like that, but you get the point. Let's continue. All right, chapter 3, preparation. So let's see what preparation, of course, sacrifices. Yeah, let's look at something from sacrifice. I'm just going to pick randomly. All right, Tom Osborne, college football coach. I'm not familiar with him. Our approach for getting ready for a football game is a 7-day process. All that fired up emotion is good, but if a team lines up in a formation that we're not prepared for, then all that emotion doesn't do us much good. We believe a highly motivated team is a team that is basically very soundly prepared. Great quote. And I actually did a post about this a while back that got a lot of flack that I said, in order to be a professional, it's less about like bursting out with passion and emotion. It's about showing up and doing the work and discipline. Let's do one more. Again, we're going to grab this one right here. So Steve Largent. I stay after practice to catch passes. I look at myself as encouragement to the common man who doesn't have great speed. I work hard. If you work hard too, you can make it. All right, chapter 4, which is pregame. Let's do one from here. How about, Joe Namath. Famous NFL quarterback. We all know who that is, I think. I prepared myself beforehand until I knew that I could do what I had to do. Then I had faith. How about one more? One more for the road, right, guys? Kyle Rhodey Jr., who is a professional soccer player. Doing anything well doesn't just lead to success. It is success. Real success in life begins with acceptance. Acceptance of God's belief in you as a unique and special person. Very true. And I think that's where it starts it all off. I mean, look at the greats, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. They believed that they were very special, they were very gifted, and more importantly, they took action on that. Chapter 5, the game, and this was an interesting one. Again, they all start the chapters with a certain a long quote or sort of an intro. This one has paradoxical commandments of leadership, so I'm going to leave that for a second for you to take a screenshot. Okay, so let's see what he has to say about the game. Sugar Ray Leonard, and again, awesome photos. For a sports fan, you'll love this book. I like to train. I enjoy challenges, but most of all, I like winning. I agree with that. Let's see. Let's do another one. Jack Dempsey, another professional boxer. I had speed, a punch, and courage. Either win or die. Right? Y.A. Tittle, NFL quarterback. What a name. Y.A. Tittle. I'm not an easy loser anytime. Let the good losers play for the other teams. I like to win. I do like quite, and look at that. I think that's Y.A. Tittle. Look at that picture. I mean, he's like on his knees. His face is literally bleeding and scarred up. This is an awesome book. I can't believe that I haven't reviewed this. All right, chapter number 6, overtime. Don't quit. There's the intro. Okay, so let's go with there's condition, thrive on pressure, mental toughness, don't quit, and pride. Let's go actually. I'll do one from condition. I'm curious about what's in the pride section. So from condition, Bill Sharman, the NBA guard, there are no big secrets. A player who is in the best shape possible is in a position to function and reach maximum efficiency. Yeah, okay, we get it. You gotta condition yourself. But let's see what is spoken about when it comes to pride. Okay, one on mental toughness though, because I like that topic. Roberto Clemente, Major League outfielder. I don't know if I will ever play in another World Series. Thus, I must not think that my body hurts me all the time. I must play hard. Yeah, I agree with that. Dewey Selman. Mental toughness is the strength to know yourself, to know your own truth, and to put forth even when others tell you you're wrong. It's that consistency in yourself. All right. Now, again, there's some areas where they expand on bigger topics like Lou Gehrig, mental toughness with his middle name, because again, he went through an incredibly painful disease, again, Lou Gehrig's disease, right? So let's go to, before we get to, don't quit, Muhammad Ali. I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now, and live the rest of your life as a champion. That's a great quote. That's a wonderful quote. All right, pride, here we go. Let's go with Joe Green, NFL defensive tackle and coach. Have respect for yourself, love yourself, and realize that whatever you attempt to achieve in life is a direct reflection of you. Be proud. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, one more. Gale Sayers, if you don't have enough pride, you're going to get your butt beat every play. And I totally agree. The way the world is going to treat you is essentially a reflection of how you treat yourself. That's why I tell people, yeah, be hard on yourself, demand a lot of yourself, have self-respect, but treat yourself with respect. That doesn't mean put yourself down, right? Big difference. All right, let's continue. All right, chapter 7, post-game. Right? Are you strong enough to handle the critics? Right? And this is a long quote from Theodore Roosevelt. And actually, I like Teddy Roosevelt. Let's read that one, actually. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, who knows the great devotion, who spends himself a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the high achievement of triumph, and who at worst, if he fails while daring greatly, knows his place shall never be with those timid and cold souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Teddy Roosevelt. What a great intro to a chapter. And so, of course, the post-game, are you strong enough to handle success? Are you strong enough to handle critics? Are you strong enough to handle adversity? Accept responsibility, don't make excuses, and then perseverance to persistence. This is a chapter I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to really enjoy reading this, but let's read a few. So this is on humility. Benjamin Franklin once said, "A man wrapped up in himself makes a very small bundle." That's true. I agree with that one. Let's see. Treat winning and losing the same. So let's go with Joe Paterno. Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. That's a good one. I love that. I love that. Here we go. Are you strong enough to handle the critics? George Blanda, who's an NFL quarterback and kicker. I would never give my critics the satisfaction of seeing me get sloppy. Totally true. Yvonne Goolagong. These are great names, I tell you. Professional tennis player said, when everybody said that I'd never be any good again, it just made me push on. Totally true. Calvin R. Griffith, who's Major League president, don't be hurt, be not surprised. If what you do is criticized, there's always one or more who can find fault with anything you plan. Mistakes are made, we can't deny, but only made by those who try. It's like a Dr. Seuss book. That's pretty good. All right, last chapter. Let's hit it. Chapter, the game of life. So the subchapters, leave something behind. Don't forget about your education. Common sense. The same principles apply. The challenge never ends. Why and how to say no. Let's jump to why and how to say no. But on the way, I'll read you a couple quick ones. On common sense. Common sense is the favorite daughter of reason. That's by H.W. Shaw, who's a humorist. Calvin Coolidge. I've never been hurt by anything I didn't say. That is such a good quote. Think about that. I've never been hurt by anything I didn't say. That's very true. Very, very true. Okay, let's get to that one chapter, or part of the chapter. Why and how to say no. All right. So here's a section with Michael Jordan. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. So it says, if you are under 18 years old, you have only lived about 1/4 of your life. That means you have the remaining 3/4 of your life to accomplish anything you want. Don't blow it. Don't do drugs. If you are doing them, stop it. Get some help. If you haven't experimented with drugs, don't start. Give yourself a chance to succeed and be all the wonderful things you can be. Totally agree with that. Completely agree. Let's see. So this is a section on saying no to cigarettes, alcohol, steroids, and I think that's really great because a lot of athletes, especially when they become very famous, you can see again, cocaine, crack, marijuana. I was recently listening to Mike Tyson's autobiography, which is incredibly, it's very interesting and entertaining, but it's also very, very sad. And he was a world champion, and he ruined his entire life, his relationships and everything, and a big cause of that was drugs and alcohol. And he's cleaned up since then, which is a really inspiring story because he literally climbed out of a hole, but ruined that man's life, right? So the chapter ends kind of like my final plea, and I think this was published. When was this book published? Actually, this book was published back in 1983. So of course there was a huge wave. There's been a rampant drug use and alcohol abuse for a long time, but especially in the 80s. And so Ferguson writes this kind of final plea about why you should not only not do drugs, avoid violent behavior, all these kind of things, and it's definitely a plea about staying on the path, right? And I think this book, if I were to sort of put a theme to this book, it's the idea of how do you stay true to yourself? How do you stay disciplined to the craft? Today I was watching Ad World 2021, and Seth Godin, one of my favorite marketers, was talking, and he said, stop romanticizing like this idea of marketing and making it bigger than it is. Literally, you don't see doctors do that. Show up, do the work, treat it as a craft, be disciplined, and be good at it. And I think that's a big part of the edge, right? And I'm definitely going to get my edge by rereading this. So that's the book of the week. If you want this book, I mean, look, if you're inspired by these kind of stories and athletes, spend a little extra money, go find it. I mean, it's $380 on Amazon, but I'm sure you can find it through eBay and maybe somewhere else. Yeah, leave a comment below. Maybe I can do some more of a deep dive on my podcast on this book if you want me to. So that's your book of the week. Happy Wisdom Wednesday, right? Welcome to my new library. Don't worry, I'll definitely be doing a tour of it soon so you can check it out. And as always, I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.